Am I the asshole for calling my brother's girlfriend a gold digger after she Googled the cost of our Christmas gifts? My brother James and his girlfriend Lindsay have been dating for 7 months. He decided to bring her to Christmas at my house. I'd met Lindsay at drinks before and she seemed nice. When they arrived, Lindsay walked in and complimented my decorations, large tree in the foyer, and asked how much they cost. I was a bit surprised by the question and just said more than I'd like and moved on. Throughout the evening, she asked several questions centered around money. She asked my husband how much he paid for our house, my stepdad how much he made at his previous job, and how much my watch cost. She even Googled one of our art pieces to see how much it sold for and started talking about how crazy it was that we spent so much money, which frankly was very uncomfortable. My stepdad pulled my brother to the side and asked if there was a problem, but my brother just said it was normal for her to do that, but that he'd speak to her about it. On Christmas morning, we all gathered around to open presents, and thankfully Lindsay didn't say anything, so I figured James had spoken with her about her intrusive questions. However, at lunch, we were talking about plans for January, and Lindsay said loudly that she didn't know how we could afford to do anything in January, as she had added up the total we spent on gifts, then proudly proclaimed the total amount. The whole table went silent, and I honestly was in equal parts shocked and annoyed that someone could be so ignorant. I looked at Lindsay and said, "Are you the world's most diligent gold digger? Seriously, would you like to be the family's accountant since you already started tracking our expenses?" Lindsay apologized and tried to explain, but my stepdad just changed the conversation and we moved on. Brother says I owe Lindsay an apology, but I think Lindsay's behavior was disgraceful. So, am I the asshole? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Am I the asshole for leaving my daughter with my mom? I, 19 female, have a 9-month-old daughter that I share with my boyfriend, 19 male. I spent most of my pregnancy alone due to my boyfriend being in a different relationship. However, we have come together and moved past that and are doing great now. He goes to university 2 hours away from me, and he sees our daughter 4 times a month on weekends. I've been very stressed and have postpartum depression from being in the house all day. I was promised help and assistance when everyone, including my mom, found out I was pregnant. And for the first few weeks, my mom helped. However, anything after that, I was on my own. I had to buy her diapers, I do full-time schoolwork, and everything else online. The past few weeks, I've watched my friends go to parties, take videos on their story, having fun, and it's made me feel left out. My mom never helps and doesn't do anything for us. She's lazy and selfish, and I know that I deserve to live a normal teenage life. So a few days ago, I was invited to go to Houston, which is 3 hours away from where we live. I spent 3 nights with my friends and my daughter's dad. I left my daughter with my mom. I told her I'd be back in a few hours. However, I was mentally drained and needed a break. During this time, my phone broke and I wasn't able to get in contact with her. When I got back, my mom told me that she was going to call CPS on me and have my parental rights taken away. I don't see what I did that would equate to her threatening my motherhood and making me feel like a bad mom. I honestly don't feel I did anything to her that was bad, besides leaving her with her granddaughter, which she should be happy to spend time with. My aunt said I'm in the wrong. However, many of my friends have told me my mom is just looking to pick a fight. So, am I the asshole? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
My husband just confessed to me that he settled for me. Disclaimer, is not my story time, send me an Instagram. Ugh. My husband and I met when we were in college. My best friend at the time, let's call her Tori. Her and I lived together and were best friends. We did everything together. I mean, we were like sisters. Let's call my husband Jack. Jack came to school and he was a newbie. He had 0 friends, so Tori and I decided to take him in. So the 3 of us went on to become the 3 Musketeers. He would stay over our apartment so much that we actually just asked him to move in. We would cook for each other, help each other study. We would even do each other's laundry whenever somebody needed help. I'm telling you, we were all like a tight-knit family. But I have a confession. As soon as Jack moved in, I started falling in love with him. But at the time, I never had the balls to ever tell him. You see, Tori was considered the prettier of the 2 of us. And I never resented Tori for that, but people made it very clear that she was the prettier one. And she was always the one to get hit on, never me. But one night, we all got drunk and Jack ended up kissing me. He actually even tried to hook up with me, but I said no. Part 2 is up. My husband confessed that he settled for me. Disclaimer, it's not my story time, I sent me on Instagram. That night, he tried to hook up with me, but I said no. Following morning, he actually apologized. At the time, Tori had just started dating another guy. I mean, Tori had a new boyfriend every single week. At the time, I wished I could have 1 boyfriend. While she had 10, I had 0. This is when I started noticing that Jack was a little jealous of Tori's new relationship. Anytime her new boyfriend would come over, he would get in a really bad mood. I asked him if he was jealous and he said no. A few days later, we all got drunk again and Jack kissed me again. Eventually, we ended up dating and he asked me to be his girlfriend and then we got married. And that all happened within a year. Tori at this time had already gotten married to the guy that she was dating. We actually both had our weddings around the same time. At the time, I felt so lucky that I was able to marry the man that I had fallen in love with in college. I was actually afraid that I would end up alone because I wasn't as pretty as Tori. Fast forward to a year after we all got married. We actually all ended up living in the same cities as well. Tori invited us over for dinner to see their new house. During the dinner, my husband decided to have a few too many drinks. And that's when he blurted out, "I actually liked Tori before I liked you. I only married you because Tori got engaged." They all laughed at this. They clearly thought it was a joke. I laughed it off too. Part 3 is up. My husband confessed to me that he settled for me. Disclaimer is not my story time, it's sent me on Instagram. That's when he said in front of everyone that he only married me because he lost his chance with Tori. They all laughed. I mean, even Tori's husband found it funny. When we finally got in the car to head home, I asked him if he actually meant it. He looked at me and he said, yeah, I liked Tori before I liked you, and that the only reason he hooked up with me was because he was mad at Tori. I started to cry uncontrollably. This whole time I never thought he had a thing for Tori. He stops the car and he says, but I love you, that he had no feelings for Tori anymore. I asked him why he would think that was okay to say out loud. He said he had probably had too many drinks. Yeah, it's the alcohol's fault for sure. When we got home, I asked him again if he really loved me. That's when he explained that the love he has for me is different than the love he had for Tori, and that he was actually infatuated with Tori. That our love was safe love. He said, just forget about what I said. It was just a joke, I just wanted to make everyone laugh. That's when I realized that he had made a joke at my cost, and it was all to make Tori laugh. I called Tori the next day and explained everything to her. That's when she confessed that her and Jack had been hooking up in college. That sometimes they would hook up when I was asleep on the couch, that they had even done it on top of the kitchen counter and in my bedroom. I told my husband, and that's when he said that I needed to let it go. That Tori was part of the past. He doesn't even touch me or kiss me. He's always angry and reproaching everything that I did. Thinking about leaving him. We don't have kids yet. What should I do? Is it weird that my boyfriend keeps asking for feet pictures dipped in peanut butter? My boyfriend and I have been together for 6 months, and within the 6 months, I realized he has a lot of weird fetishes. He's completely obsessed with my feet and always wants to touch them. He also loves it when I wear black stilettos, but lately he's become more demanding. We see each other on the weekends because we live about 2 hours from each other. This means he's always asking me for pictures, but now it's gotten to the point where he's asking me to send him pictures of me dipping my feet in different food. For example, chocolate sauce or peanut butter. And the worst one, mustard. I mean, I want to say yes to all of these things, and when I say no, he gets really angry. He threatens to break up with me and says that I'm not fulfilling his needs. He slept over at my place the other night and I found him looking at really weird stuff on the internet. Like a lot of weird feet stuff. I can't even describe it, it was so disturbing. But I do love him and I don't want him to leave me. Should I just give in and send him the feet pictures with the peanut butter? Or should I stay strong and say no? What should I do? Story time about how my father is obsessed with me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. And trigger warning, my mom and dad had me when they were very, very young. My mom was 14 years old when she got pregnant with me. From what my mom told me, my parents were pretty much together throughout the whole pregnancy. Even though they were both in high school, they wanted to move in together and try to raise me like a regular family. But my maternal grandmother had a very big issue with this. She wanted my mom to continue going to high school and possibly even give me up for adoption. But my mom was not having it, so she decided to move out with my dad. Once I was born, unfortunately, my parents just couldn't take care of me. My dad was too busy playing his football and trying to get a scholarship, and my mom just didn't really know how to take care of a child. I mean, she was a child herself. This is when my grandmother stepped in and decided to take me in, which I thank God for every single day of my life. My grandmother raised me as her own daughter, and she has been the most amazing woman in my entire life. My parents split up, and through most of my childhood, I lived with my mom and my grandmother. I didn't see my dad for about 10 years. By the time I saw him again, I was 15 years old. Part 2 is a story time about how my father is obsessed with me. Disclaimer is not my story time, it's that I mean on Instagram. And trigger warning. I finally saw my father again when I was 15 years old. From the moment he saw me, he wanted to hug me and kiss me all the time. At first I thought it was normal because he's my father and he hadn't seen me in over 10 years. After a few weeks of him coming to visit me, I started feeling really strange. This was also around the time where I was getting noticed by boys in school. And you know that feeling you get when you know a guy likes you? Well, that's the feeling I started getting from my own father. Every time he touched me, it was like too touchy. And every kiss was just strange. One of the things that really started to bother me was that he liked going to the beach. And he wanted to make it a thing. He would always say, let's go to the beach on the weekend. But I didn't feel comfortable with him. First off, he never invited my mom to come or my grandma. So it was always just me and him. He even took me shopping for bikinis. And this is when my stomach dropped. At the bikini shop, he asked for small bikinis, like the type that show a lot of skin. Told him I wasn't comfortable with that. I wanted a bathing suit. He said no and bought me a thong bikini. He stared at me all day at the beach. Part 3 is up. Storytime about how my father is obsessed with me, part 3. After he bought me the thong bikini and forced me to wear it at the beach, I noticed he was staring at me. I wrapped myself in a towel and told him I wanted to leave. After that, I told my mom and my grandma how I felt about my dad. They thought that I was exaggerating, but I knew that I wasn't. My mom asked him to never ever do anything like that again, and he said he wouldn't. After that, he would always do certain things, like stare at me too much, or always want to hug me and kiss me. And for my own comfort and safety, I put a lot of space between him and I. When I was 18, I finally got my first boyfriend. He became enraged when my mom told him. He told my mom that I was acting like a slut. That's when I cut him out completely from my life. A year later, I got on Instagram and that's when he started following me there. He started leaving strange comments on all my pictures, and eventually he started offering me money to spend more time with him. I told him I wasn't comfortable with him. That's when he told me that all he wanted to do was watch me take a bath, and that he would pay me thousands if I let him. My grandmother and my mom have completely cut him out of our lives. On the day of my wedding, we hired security to keep him away. And of course, he managed to show up, but security kicked him out. I'm thinking I should get a restraining order. Luckily, my mental health hasn't suffered too much from this. He's obviously an unwell person, but I actually feel really bad for him. And I feel like getting a restraining order is just gonna make things worse. What the heck should I do? Bye.
I told her that's chubby. You're chubby. Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend she's not curvy, she's chubby? Oh my god, buddy, you're running on a thin line right now, and that line snap for sure. I'm already calling you an asshole for this, but let me hear you out. So my girlfriend, 23 female, and me, 26 male, have been together since 2019. She used to weigh about 125 pounds at 5'8". She was pretty thin. The past 13 months, she gained 25 pounds and now weighs 150 pounds. She continuously calls herself curvy, and that's just not true. Her boobs did not grow with the weight gain, and she is still a 34A cup. Her thighs and butt area did grow a bit, but she's still not an hourglass. You're an asshole. Holy shit. What? Stop. I wouldn't be bothered by this if she didn't heavily identify with it. When she was 125 pounds, she kept identifying with how thin she was. At 125 pounds, she was proud that they couldn't see anything on her CT scan when she had an appendicitis because she was too skinny. She wants to make a TikTok fashion page dedicated to curvy fashion. I got annoyed with her identifying so much with a body type that isn't even hers that I said, "You're not curvy, you're chubby." She looked at me stunned. I told her curvy was like Beyonce, for example. She said that she felt that she was curvy because she's not skinny anymore and not fat. I told her that's chubby, you're chubby. And she began to cry and left my apartment. Oh my god, wow, that's so mean! It's been 12 hours and we haven't talked since. I know this was mean, but it was true. I was so frustrated with the idea of her making this fashion TikTok account for a body type that's not hers. See, let's get to the root of it. Why does that bother you? It's like her own personal TikTok. Like, why do you care? Why does that bother you? It's her life. It's her body. It's her TikTok. Like, why does that? It doesn't affect your life at all. Also, she hasn't had an eating disorder or anything. I think she just naturally gained weight as she got older. Am I the asshole for stating a fact?